We just finished up the 2018 version of Kala, and I'm going to show you the new features in this video. One of the things we did is we added learning data to all the large charts. This is something I wanted to do since the very beginning of Kala, and I finally got around to actually doing it. But what you do is on any of the large charts, on any of the screens where there's a big chart, by clicking on the planet in that chart, you'll get the indications for the planet. And these indications are mostly from Bruja Parashara. They're also from a couple other books, but the gist of it is from Parashara. So you get the sutra, and then you get a bunch of indications on the planet. And then if you click on sign, it gives you the sutra on the sign, and then a bunch of indications on the sign. If you click on the nakshatra, let me scroll back up here. If it clicks on the nakshatra, it gives a sutra from the Tight Area Brahmana, and then a lot of indications on the nakshatras. And you click on the house, it'll give you the house sutra from Prussia in Sanskrit and English. If you click on a sign, it'll tell you the indications for that sign and the house that it's in. Then you can also click on the house and get the sign, or get the house indications and the nakshatra indications as well. So basically everything on houses, planets, nakshatras, and rashis is right in front of you in a handy way. And these are all really thoroughly tested, authoritative significations. We didn't just try to add everything that anyone has ever said about all the planets and so on and just create a big mess for you to wade through. We put really authoritative statements and correct information about all the planets and signs and nakshatras. And that's available on any of the screens where you have a large chart displayed. Okay. We added a new screen. We added a nakshatra screen. And in this screen, basically created a round nakshatra wheel. The wheel shows the nakshatra. If you click on the nakshatra, you'll get the nakshatra indication. If you click on the planet, you'll get the planet indication, its sign, house, and so on. And in the screen itself, we give the ruler of the nakshatra. We give the tara of the nakshatra, so what nakshatra it is from the moon. And then we gave the 1/9 parts of the nakshatras right here, and also the planetary sublords of the nakshatras. So a lot of nakshatra information. And the other thing we did that I've been wanting to work with for a long time is we added these different types of nakshatras, the dense nakshatra, the thorn nakshatra, and these are basically nakshatras that are signaled out in the chart by certain calculations from other points, or particularly from the from nakshatras from other planets and so on. Certain nakshatras gain a different nature. So now that we've programmed this, we can start researching the nature and effects of these special nakshatras. So all these sort of special calculations are here in the center of the chart. We have moved the Dimba chakra and the Sani chakra to the nakshatras page. For this version, these two chakras were on a different page on the Sarvatabhadra chakra. But what we did in this table, or in this screen, is we put things relevant to the 27 nakshatra system. The Dimba chakra and the Sani chakra are based on 27 nakshatras. There's other techniques that are based on 28 nakshatras, like the Sarvatabhadra chakra. And so we left that in its own screen and moved the two 27 nakshatra chakras to this screen, which is focused on 27 nakshatras. It has one dasha screen that you can select whatever dasha you want to use, as always, and two customizable windows that you can select anything you want onto it. And I made this screen in preparation for the nakshatra course I'll be teaching later this year. There's a lot of very, very revealing information to be determined from the padas of the nakshatras, the 1, 2, 3, or 4th part, and also the 1/9 part of the nakshatra. And with using those smaller parts, you can get very subtle distinctions of how a planet is operating in a nakshatra. So we wanted to create that in a more easy to see manner. Okay, we added a screen scroll to it. If you go to the options and you go to chart screen options, in the center you'll see a list of all the screens that we have. And any screen you click on is going to be added to the screen scroll feature. So now I've got the main screen 2, the main screen, Shadashavagas, Jaimini, Cards of Truth, the South, North, and Muhurta screens all in the screen scroll. So when I go and on my keyboard, if I push my up-down arrows, I'm going to scroll through those screens, okay, in the order that they're listed in this screen scroll. And I can move them around. Say I want to open up to Jaimini. So I just move Jaimini to the top and click on it. When I open it, I'm going to go right to Jaimini. Then I can scroll. What if I want the second scroll to be Cards of Truth? Then I just move it to the second position and it'll be the second scroll. So I can customize the order the screens scroll in and select which screens you want to have in the scrolling feature. So this is a real handy way to whip through your screens a little faster. We also shortened the options screen because on some of the newer computers and tablets, people were having a hard time getting to the OK button on the old screen. So we made the screen wider and shorter so it fit on your screen better. We also have it that with the left-right arrows, you can scroll through your chart. So say you open up 2 charts or 3 charts and you want to scroll through them, rather than going to Window and selecting the chart, you can just push the left-right arrows on your keyboard and you'll scroll through the different charts. Okay, it's especially handy if you're doing compatibility or something like that with 2 different charts. We renamed the transit screens. I thought the names weren't clear enough. So now we have the Ashtaka Varga screen, the animated transit screen, the predictive transit screen, the search transits. Instead of transit hit list, we call that search transits now. And the transits calendar is this page. So we just cleaned up those names a little bit. On the Ashtaka Varga screen, we removed the yearly Ashtaka Varga transit dates that were taking up the right part of the screen. And instead, we added 3 customizable windows that you can select any charts upon. And then, if you want to see the Ashtaka Varga year, if you right-click on your screen and go to the pop-up menu, you'll get your Ashtaka Varga year, and then you can see this screen as a separate window. And then you can pull that screen up on any, or that window up on any screen you're at. So if you're in your main screen, you can click on the Ashtaka Varga year and get it on this screen as a floating window and get rid of it when you don't need it. We also added a new Dasamsha calculation from Parashara. We currently have 3 methods to calculate Dasamsha as a result. We have the contemporary, the parivritti, and the reverse for even. I'll explain each of these. In the contemporary, this is the method most people use from Parashara, but I don't think that sutra was understood correctly, and that it's not the correct way to actually calculate the Dasamsha. What the sutra says, it says, for an odd sign, the Dasamshas go in the normal direction. So for an odd sign, such as Aries, Jupiter here is in the 4th Dasamsha. So we'd start at Aries and go 1, 2, 3, 4, get to Cancer. So Jupiter goes into Cancer in the Dasamsha. So that's really clear. Parashara says, count from the sign itself for the odd rashis. Then he says the even rashis start at the 9th from the sign. So for instance, Mars is in Capricorn in even Rashi. It's in the 4th Dasamsha. So we start at the 9th from Capricorn, which is Virgo, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we get to Sagittarius. So Mars goes into Sagittarius in the Dasamsha. That's the way most people calculate the Dasamsha when they're using a Parashara Dasamsha. However, Parashara then goes on to give the lords of the Dasamshas, which are the lords of the directions such as Yama and Kubara. And he says And then he says reverse for even signs. So everyone calculates the deities reverse for even signs, but not the Dasamshas. And honestly, the Varga, and I've mentioned this in my courses, that I found the least reliable was the Dasamsha Varga. With the same techniques, I found the Dasamsha Varga to be the least reliable of all the Vargas. So I started thinking about it and focused on the sutra a little bit more and decided to try going reverse for even signs instead, and came up with the Dasamsha reverse for even signs. And I think this is really how Parashara wants us to calculate the Dasamsha. So in this case, for Mars, which is in the fourth Dasamsha of Capricorn, it's an even sign, so we start from Virgo, the ninth, and we go reverse 1, 2, 3, 4, and we get Gemini. Mars goes into Gemini in this chart, and now instead of Sagittarius. And now I found the Dasamsha to be giving really good results and to be as reliable as any other Varga. So I think the reason this is, imagine this. On the odd signs, we're going forwards for 9 signs. So Aries Dasamsha starts Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, with the last Dasamsha being Capricorn. Then Taurus starts with the first Dasamsha being Capricorn, the second Sag, the third Scorpio, the fourth Libra, the fifth Virgo, the sixth Leo, the seventh Cancer, the seventh Cancer, the eighth Gemini, the ninth Taurus, and the 10th will be Aries. So it goes in reverse. And so there's sort of a mirror imaging between the odd and even signs. And it works better in practice. And it also follows what he says to do in the sutra, where he does say at the end, reverse for even signs. He doesn't say reverse for even signs just for the divisional deities. He just says simply reverse for even signs. So carrying that through in all ways, this is the Dasamsha we get. So we added that Dasamsha. The other Dasamsha is the Paravriti, which some texts use, and it's also the one used in the Tajika system. And that's simply that, Aries Dasamsha starts at Aries, goes through 10 signs. Taurus starts at the next sign, which is Aquarius, and goes on for 10 more signs. So it's calculated similar to the principles of the Navamsha. Okay, so now we have 3 Dasamshas to choose from that you can experiment with. We also added a couple new sections to the yogas menu. The most obvious thing we did is we added some Jaimini Sutras effects, the effects of the Swamsha, which is basically the second part of the first chapter of Jaimini. So the second pada of the first chapter, where he gives the results of the Swamsha. So we give all the Swamsha results with Sanskrit, as well as the literal translation and a commentary where necessary. These are taken directly from my Jaimini Sutras translation. So the Kala will search for all those combinations and principles in that particular portion of Jaimini on the Swamsha. We also added all the yogas from Gargahora. Gargahora basically gives the results of all planet conjunctions in all houses. So if you have a 5-planet conjunction, like in this chart, Mars, Mercury, Moon, Venus in the second, he has all those kind of results. So if we go to yogas and under delineations classical, we added it in there, and we go to conjunctions and houses according to Gargahora. So it'll show all the conjunction. He has a moon Mars, he has a moon Mercury, has a moon Venus, a Mars Mercury, a Mars Venus, a Mercury Venus, a moon Mars Mercury, and so on. But the one that is most interesting is of course, Venus, Moon, Mercury, Mars. In second, we'll be interested in visiting shrines, religious observations, and shastras will be worshipped and equal to a king. So sometimes when you see these multiple planet conjunctions, you start wondering these big conjunctions, 4, 5, 6, 7 planet conjunctions, you start getting a little stressed out about where to start. Where I always like to start is I like to start with what Gargahora has to say about that big multi-planet conjunction. So I've always just looked it up as needed, but I decided to finally get that programmed into the software. And it was literally hundreds of sutras that we put in there, because it's every possible 2 to 7 planet conjunction in all 12 houses. So that's a really handy delineation to use. Okay, as always, we've made some screen calculation options. The Avashta's calculated screen we simply now have named to Lajitadi Avashtas. We added a lot of features and calculations to the screens. Some of these we programmed so that we can teach them and you can learn them. Other ones we programmed for research purposes. So in the basic Lajitadi Avashta calculations, we give calculations using different types of strengths. We have a basic one where we just use the aspects and conjunctions, the drishti and yuti. We have the one that we typically have had, which is with the shadbala. We've added one with ishta, with, well, I'll explain what Veda is in a moment, with cheshta, with ucha, with digbala, and with shubha. So we've taken all the different strengths from Parashara and calculated the Lajitadi Avashtas separately with those. The Veda is a Sanskrit name for the number 4. In Sanskrit, it's quite typical in the text to not actually use numbers, but to use something that symbolizes that number. Veda symbolizes the number 4. We used Veda so that, really, in Kala, I always try to make it so that we have to do as little translations into other languages as possible. So when I can use a Sanskrit term, that means something I usually do. So Veda simply means the number 4. So that means all of, Cheshta, Ucha, Dig, and Shubha combined, all into that Veda measurement. So this gives us a lot of scope to research the effects of different strengths. I will be teaching on the Drishti Yuti and the Shadbala calculations. I've actually already taught on the Shadbala calculations. So that's one change we did. Then in the tables relevant to the Vargas, we've completely revamped how they're calculating the numbers by utilizing principles of Diptadi Avashtas and calculations of Vimshopak. And this is too much to explain exactly how to do this in this video. It'll take a whole course, which I will be teaching soon now that the software is out. Okay, another thing we did is the Bhava Chalita cusp. Normally you'd have to be on a screen, you'd have to select your Bhava Chalita's chart, then you click in the center and you get your Bhava Chalita cusp. Well, that was a burden to do, so now if you right click on the screen, you can simply select Bhava Chalita cusp anytime you want. The birth control report, which is under the print menu, we have the birth control report. We used to just print 1 year, the current year. We now have it so you can select the years you want to print, okay? And you can select a date range, so you can select 3 or 4 years to print, and it'll print those years. If you press on Control F, you'll get the search tool where you'll be able to search, for your database. So say you want to find all the charts where Venus is in Aries Navamsha, you could do that. So you can access this by Control F now. You used to have to go to Tools, Search. Another thing we did to speed up the tool is you can select the folder you want to search. Say I want to see just politicians. Let's see. I go to my database and say I just want to check politicians charts. I don't want to care about anyone else. I just want to search politicians. Now I can just search that part of my database. So I don't have to search the whole database. And that really speeds up the search if you just want to focus on one type of person to search on. Okay. Ayanamsha. Let's see. Options, calculation options, Ayanamsha. The Ardra Galactic Plane Ayanamsha, which is an old favorite amongst many people who were my students back in the, first half of the 2000s. Many of them still use this Ayanamsha. We updated this Ayanamsha because a Chinese astronomer managed to calculate the position of the galactic plane a little more accurately. So we updated this Ardra galactic plane Ayanamsha. It comes up to just a very slight difference, okay? So if you're using that Ayanamsha, expect to see things be a slightly different, but it's because of a more accurate galactic plane calculation. We have options now. If you use the tool Sunrise Calculator, you can now select the options to calculate it from sunrise, when sunrise is at the there's a different opinion. When is sunrise? Is it when the sun just touches the horizon, where the top of the sun touches the horizon, or when it's the center of the sun touching the horizon? I believe the most useful method is when the sun, the center of the sun is on the horizon. But some people like to use the top of the sun, the edge of the sun. So we have some sunrise options for those of you who didn't like the center of the sun. For those of you who like to use Rahu and Ketu as lords of Aquarius and Scorpio for Gemini, you have that option too now. So this, let's see, that option is, I don't know where it is because I don't use that option, nor do I recommend it, but some people were begging us for it. Okay, so for Pada calculation, use Rahu and Ketu as lords of Aquarius, Scorpio when stronger. Don't recommend it, but if you like it, you can try it. Then the sunrise calculations are also there. You can use the Hindu one, which is the center of the disc. And then you've got all these other options that if you're into your sunrises, you'll probably understand. And if you're not into them, you won't care. For those of you who like to work with relative speeds, we added the relative speeds of the nodes to the planetary information table. We have something that some people have been using for market predictions, as well as other research, research ideas, and that's the Planet House Cusp Array. And what this does, it simply shows a list of points in all, in degrees and sign, all points in all Vargas. And it used to only use the equal house system. Now it'll use whatever house system you have selected. In the Ishta Kashta table, the Ishta Shubha table, we now have the averages of that measurement. Okay, so you can get a better idea if that category is better or worse. The reason we've done that is because each of these categories represent a particular part of the person's experiences. So if you see a high, points on one category, while some planets might be weak and some strong, overall you'll be able to see how they do in that experience. We also put the Ucha and Chasta in that table so you can see it separately instead of having to pull up the Shadbala and looking for it there. The reason I do that is because in medical astrology I use these individual values quite often. Then in the Panchanga table, we have added next to the Tithi the sun-moon angle. So that's the degrees between the sun and the moon. Okay, we did some shifts in the cards of truth. First and most obvious is we added a compatibility screen to the cards of truth. So here we have all the basically charts that show everything that I taught in the cards of truth compatibility. Then we also have a Davidson screen you can click on that takes you to a whole new screen, which is a Davidson chart for the couple. So basically with the Davidson chart, we take both people, we take the day between their birth dates, and we take the distance or the location between their points of location where they were born, and we calculate a birth spread for that place at that time to get their own spread. And so now you have a spread for the couple that you can predict what happens to the couple based on the Davidson screen. And it works out really well. So if you, for instance, a good way to get familiar with it is pull up your Davidson compatibility or Davidson chart for a person, and then go to the year you met them and study that year. And you'll see that year would have had very strong relationship focus in your Davidson chart with that person. Okay? The other things we did, when you open up the cards of truth, the B52s are already shown. So it used to open up to, this window, to these charts. You had to click on these to get the B52 spreads. The B52s are easy to see, so I decided to just open it up to these, and if you don't want to see those, just make them go away. Okay. We added the day card to these spreads. So now you can see the 5 of clubs is here, and the ace of spades is the year card. Before that, you would see the ace of spades here, but you didn't see it here. So we added it here. We put the significators to the planets. So the self planet's the sun, the minister is Venus, siblings is moon, and so on. I taught how to use those in the courses, and you used to have to, like pull up this little extra table to look at those, but now we have them right on the chart. We added retrogression and combust. See, it means the planets combust. That means it's very close to the sun, to where it's actually behind the sun, so that you couldn't see the planet that day because the sun would be in the way if you looked out your window. And we added retrograde for when a planet's retrograde. Some people requested that information, so we added it. We improved the cards printout to be a little more clearly visible. And we set it up so that, let's see. Actually, we didn't add that yet. Okay, so that's what we added to the card screen. And there's another feature I'm toying around with adding, but I haven't decided yet. So for a moment I thought I already had, but I hadn't. So those are all the things we've added for this version. We did some atlas updates. Some countries decided to change when their time zones change in starting next year and so on. So we made updates for that. And that is it. So I hope that some of these features are useful to you.